discuss how ATP works like a battery. Adenosine triphosphate is often called the energy currency due to the cells it stores and delivers energy from all nearby cellular processes within the body. Picture it as a rechargeable battery. When it's fully charged as ATP, structurally, ATP comprises of an adenine base and a ribose sugar and three phosphate groups, with energy stored in the higher energy bonds between these phosphates, particularly within the second and third. When a cell requires energy, for example, to contract a muscle or synthesize a molecule, an enzyme breaks the bonds between the second and third phosphate groups, releasing energy and converting it ATP into adenosine diphosphate, plus a free phosphate. Another way to envision this is to picture a battery in your phone. When you use it, you drain it, and then you plug it in to recharge it. ATP is the same, but it's happening on a microscopic scale, billions times over and over again, without the need of any more outlet. How is ATP discharged and recharged through ATP-ADP? How is it discharged? Within the body and recharged within the body. Once ATP within the body is converted to ADP, as mentioned previously, this process discharges renders ATP in a state of a dead battery. To recharge this battery, we need to attract a free phosphate molecule back in, as you can see displayed within this diagram to the right. How does this relate to money and finance? As a charged battery, ATP stores energy for future use, much like a bank, storing purchasing power. A cell holds ATP when it's needed as used to save your money for later spending. Or this can be seen as depositing money back into the bank to spend on a later project. Discharging energy. ATP discharge breaking into ADP to release energy mirrors money as a medium of exchange. When you spend money, you discharge it to acquire goods or services, transferring value to another party. Within this case, you spend slash discharge money slash energy while still having money within savings, similar to phosphates discharging from ATP, transforming it into ADP. Recycling the charge. ATP recharges via respiration or photosynthesis, using sources like glucose to restore its energy content. In finance, money is recharged through creation. Central banks print it, or banks issue loans. Or this can also be recharged through making money and depositing it back into a savings account, thus restarting the entire process again. Thank you.
Another important feature of the ATP-ADP energy process is that it's decentralized. This decentralization is reflected in a number of features of ATP, with, one of these features being that it's not actually centrally produced, rather it's localized as well as produced in multiple locations within the cell. It's also decentralized in its distribution, in that the concentration of ATP is more highly concentrated in areas where it's more needed. Also, ATP and ADP is decentralized in its storage. So ATP is not centrally stored in a particular area, rather it's actually continuously produced and used based on the cell's needs. Hence we can see that the ATP-ADP currency operates without a central authority, and the control is spread over multiple users. So these ideals of decentralization in currency are ideas which very much also apply to a monetary currency system. A monetary system where the creation, control, and storage of currency being something which is not governed by a single authority. With the only true decentralized currencies nowadays really being cryptocurrencies, with the creation of money, quote unquote, so to speak, being through a decentralized process, which is referred to as being mined. Also, it's decentralized. Also, within a decentralized monetary system, individuals can exchange money without the need or interference of an intermediary, like a bank, for example. And most importantly, in a decentralized monetary system, the money supply itself is not stored or controlled by a single entity, and this subsequently inhibits a central entity from controlling the money's value through controlling its supply, its availability, and as well as things like interest rates.
So moving on to our next question. how humanity can transform current modern currencies into an ATP-like energy currency for every human activity. So why an ATP-based currency model? In biology, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is the energy molecule that powers nearly every function of life. It's not stored in banks or hoarded by central authority. It's produced and consumed locally on demand and flows constantly to wherever energy is needed. Now imagine if our money worked the same way, always in motion, created where it's needed, and accessible by all. Instead of static wealth locked in speculative assets or centralized institutions, an ATP inspired currency would circulate continuously, adapt in real time, and reflect actual human and environmental needs. Just like ATP responds instantly to shifting energy demands, our currency could become dynamic, linked to real activity, decentralized, and responsive. As researchers like Nath in 2019, Pina in 2022, and Lane 2022 have shown, ATP represents a universal, efficient, and regenerative energy model. This natural intelligence gives us a blueprint to transform economic systems from rigid and extractive to fluid and life-sustaining. So how do we transform today's system into something more ATP-like? First, we use blockchain to decentralize currency creation. Just as ATP is generated within each cell, then we introduce smart contracts that act like molecular switches, triggering payments instantly when conditions are met. We design currencies that lose value when idle, encouraging movement instead of hoarding. Value generation should come from real inputs, human labor, clean energy, verified outputs, universal basic income can maintain baseline financial flow, just as cells maintain ATP levels to survive. Lastly, AI systems can monitor the flow of value and adjust it dynamically, like the body's own regulatory system, ensuring a fair, adaptable, and responsive economy. Now imagine a world where every person, every machine, every community acts like a digital cell, producing, using, and exchanging value in real time. A currency that mirrors life's own logic, circulating, regenerating, and adapting. This isn't just a futuristic idea. Back in 1984, Sugita drew parallels between metabolisms and economic flow. Today, OpenStax 2024 outlines how ATP underpins biology, while Pina and Lane explore its deep evolutionary role. The science is clear. ATP works because it flows. Maybe it's time our money did too. And now, Purab will continue with the next question.
Okay, so now let's talk about did gold standard money work like ATP energy currency? So first of all, what is gold standard monetary system? So gold standard is a monetary system in which the economic unit of account is directly based on a fixed amount of gold. So in simple terms, it's a currency in which the currency is directly linked to the gold. It was the basis for the international monetary system from 1800s to 1971. And in my opinion, there are four characteristics that help us determine it if it did work like ATP or not. First one is universality. So gold standard, it's not really universal. It has a limited value because of the perceived scarcity. So if you're on a remote island and maybe there's a tribe that doesn't even know what gold is, they wouldn't accept your currency. It has no value there. So it's not universal. While ATP, on the other hand, is universal. Every single human, animals, plants, and even bacteria and viruses need ATP for energy. Second characteristic is supply flexibility. So gold standard currency, it's scarce, rigid, slow adjustments, because you can't really increase or decrease the supply. There's 250,000 tons of gold on Earth, while ATP is unlimited because the energy technically comes from the sunlight, and sunlight is virtually unlimited. So that's why if economy grows, you can't really grow gold more and more. Third, intrinsic value. Gold does not really have an intrinsic value. It's a element. It's an element. You can't eat it or it can't do any work on its own. And the currency, it's just paper, even though it's backed by gold. the paper does not have that inherent value, while ATP is a direct biological necessity for all organisms. So it's very important, and it itself has that energy, the ATP molecule. Economic stability, its gold standard currency is unstable. What if you find a reserve of gold? It will make the economy unstable, while ATP is very stable, constantly replenished based on the need of the cell through the ATP-ADP cycle. So to conclude, the similarities are very superficial. Like gold seems universal, but is actually not like ATP. And clearly, gold-backed currencies fundamentally lack ATP's adaptability, abundance, and genuine universal value, intrinsic value. Adopting ATP-inspired currencies principles will enhance economic resilience and stability significantly, but it's a very hard thing to do practically. So these are our references that we use for this presentation. And nature has perfected its energy currency over billions of years. Perhaps we can learn from biology and improve our monetary systems too. Thank you.